The effectiveness of military aircraft is growing as fast as the United States economy. Just imagine, a modern combat plane requires 60 times less bombs to strike a target than for the fighters of the Second World War era. The stuffing of modern planes is impressive, but in history, there are examples that you look at and think, holy Christ, how did they do that? What would shock you more? A giant plane which resembles a flying city, or a plane which can ascend up to a suborbital height and fly 6 times faster than the speed of sound? We made a list of the most powerful military planes in the history of aviation. The first half of the 20th century was a real era of gigantomania in technology. This trend on having the biggest of everything also influenced aviation. For example, the Soviet Kalinin K-7 plane of the 1930s was the largest propeller aircraft in history, which was capable of taking off with piston engines. The length of the wings was 174 feet or 53 meters. In comparison, a modern and effective bomber of the US, the Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II, has a wingspan of 33 to 45 feet or 10 to 13 meters, depending on the model. So already 90 years ago, the Kalinin K-7 was a 5 times larger plane. And this monster didn't operate on jet engines, they hadn't been invented yet, but used ordinary internal combustion. In order to lift the 21 tons of its own mass, it needs around 24 powerful motors. The power of the main one is 750 horsepower, which is more than many modern race cars. The plane was able to transport 16 tons of bombs and was armed with 16 artillery guns. A scary thing to look at, right? In addition, it could climb to a height of more than 18,000 feet or 5,500 meters and traveled at a speed of 145 miles or 234 kilometers per hour. A pretty good speed for those times. But only one such plane took flight in 1933. After a few test flights, there was an accident during the landing. A fire started and 15 people became victims. What do you think? Would it be effective in battle or just turn into an easy target for fighter planes? But maybe the strength of a military plane isn't in its size, but for example, in its speed. How about the ultra-modern concept plane of the future, with jet engines flying faster than the speed of sound? Maybe it will soon be actually made. Well, for now, the fastest piloted fighter jet in the world is the North American X-15. It's hard to imagine, but its maximum speed is 4,520 miles or 7,274 kilometers per hour. This is almost 6 times faster than the speed of sound. Meaning the 2,364 miles or 3,805 kilometers between Los Angeles and New York can be traveled by this plane in a little more than 20 minutes. But that's not all. See, the North American X-15 is the first and only hypersonic plane which flies at a suborbital height, meaning it can fly where actual space practically begins. Its maximum height is 68 miles or almost 110 kilometers. According to the classification of the US Air Force, this can already be considered spaceflight, though the plane was developed for information gathering, not for battle. And who would it fight with at that height other than aliens? In total, with planes of this type, 199 flights were made, but the last flight ended tragically. The North American X-15 suddenly became uncontrollable and broke apart mid-air. Afterwards, the project was shut down. But maybe a powerful plane needs cool armor. The American Air Force during World War II created a real flying fortress. This was the strategic B-17 bomber, which had already been developed in 1934 but achieved fame for its sorties over Germany and the Pacific. It had an all-metal body. This design feature made it very reliable. It also protected it from too heavy loads and the effect of blast waves, which is caused by explosions. But that's not all, as the B-17 bomber could survive a really tough battle. There are actual cases of B-17s coming back to base with only one of the 4 engines. It could survive multiple hits from large caliber rounds and continue flying, even without a large part of its tail. But no matter how survivable the B-17 is, it would turn into an easy target if not for its own weaponry. So in its later variants, it had 12 large caliber machine guns. Their barrels stuck out of specially made semicircular cabins for a maximum field of fire. This bomber could almost shoot at any point over and under its body. As well, 4 powerful engines allowed it to accelerate up to 310 miles per hour or 500 kilometers per hour. For those times, that made it a difficult opponent. But of course, a loud and impressive aerial battle is far from being the only objective of a warplane. The real effective ones were often the ones who completed their objective and came back to base whole. So maybe the best warplane is a stealth fighter. This is exactly what the creators of the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk decided to make. Their goal, to create a plane which would be able to strike before the enemy could respond. This is how the first invisible plane appeared. This immediately became a sensation, primarily because of the V-shaped form of the body and its black color. But this design isn't needed in order to impress onlookers. It improves the fighter's main quality, its invisibility from any ground and aerial surveillance system. All the body's parts, like antennas, were put inside of the body, same as the cannons. Furthermore, this plane is not suited for direct aerial combat. Due to its special form, many top-class aerial maneuvers are too dangerous for it to do. In addition, it was built into the artificial intelligence of the plane to not allow the pilot to do such maneuvers. The Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk's objective is a lightning-fast nighttime flight to destroy important targets. The plane was operated from 1983 to 2008. It could have kept going until 2019, but its maintenance was expensive. As well, it was replaced by a next-generation fighter jet. But it is the Lockheed F-117 Nighthawk which gave rise to the invisible aircrafts and showed how effective they are in battle. Which military jet is the best for battle with an opponent? As these aren't tanks, their mass doesn't play a big role, and the confrontation is conducted on a whole other level. For this, the main thing is maneuverability. In this regard, one of the best fighter jets is the Swedish JAS-39 Gripen. The engine's thrust diverges in two geometric planes. This gives more freedom of movement, while the form of the body has excellent aerodynamic performance. This improves control. Thus, the JAS-39 Gripen can do any aerobatics more quickly, precisely, and reliably. However, maneuverability is not the most important quality for modern aerial combat, as at close distance, the pilot relies not only on his vision, but on recognition systems and tracking of the enemy's plane. As when the other plane is flying around in different directions, moving your head around the cabin would be uncomfortable, wouldn't you agree? Well, the JAS-39 Gripen can jam the electronic signals of the same device in nearby planes. Imagine this, there's combat and the fighter jets are dancing around one another, each trying to get on top or on the other's tail. All of a sudden, the JAS-39 Gripen vanishes from the pilot's view in order to suddenly appear from an unexpected side and fire the fatal shot. Impressive? Each of these powerful fighter jets have their strong sides, but can they not all be combined? Mix in an unreal speed, maneuverability, add in the ability to conduct electronic warfare and jam the opponent's devices, some heavy weaponry, and we'll get an almost perfect fighter jet. The 5th generation fighters are exactly like this, like the Russian Su-57. Information regarding it is kept secret, but we found out that at short distances, the search and tracking system finds and destroys targets using rockets with infrared guidance. This is why it has giant weapon compartments. They occupy almost the entire length of the aircraft. What could be stored inside for use? As an example, the P-77 rocket. Its range is up to 68 miles or 110 kilometers. Thanks to its solid fuel engine, the rocket detaches off the plane in mere seconds. The active guidance turns on when signaled by the onboard computer, which identifies the target capture range. The speed of the rocket reaches 2,640 miles or 4,250 kilometers per hour. In addition, the Su-57 has two K-74M2 rockets of the air-to-air class with infrared homing. They are better suited for close-distance combat. Scary arsenal, no? But the undisputed leader among fighter jets is the main star of the 5th generation F-22 Raptor. It can break the sound barrier without using an afterburner, meaning for it, supersonic flight is completely normal. It doesn't even need extra effort or resources. Its maximum speed is almost 1,500 miles or 2,414 kilometers per hour. In addition, its ability to ascend higher than the majority of other planes, specifically a height of 12.3 miles or 19.8 kilometers, gives it an additional trump card. But of course, that's not all. An ideal radar system with phased array. It has around 2,000 active elements which emit and receive signals. They allow it to discover the opponent at very great distances, up to 140 miles or 225 kilometers. At the same time, the effective stealth system allows the F-22 to remain unseen until it launches the first and usually final strike, as a special absorbent material was used in this fighter that absorbs the enemy's emission of radar. Cool, right? This is the F-22's tactic, to strike a devastating first strike from afar. It is so fast that it's hard to notice, but if the enemy does detect it, then he probably won't be able to catch up. If a miracle happens and he does catch up, then he will 100% regret it, because at close distances, this American is also a dangerous fighter. First of all, its maneuverability is better than that of any other plane on our list, but its weaponry makes the F-22 a really fearsome opponent. The M61 Vulcan rapid-fire cannon with a caliber of 20mm can tear any enemy armor to shreds. Plus, this fighter launches rockets and bombs at supersonic speeds. What about the rockets? For example, the Sidewinder 9X with heat-seeking tracking. It isn't sensitive to infrared traps and can turn 180 degrees mid-air to reach its target. Moreover, the F-22 is also a gift for the pilot. Excellent visibility and a super modern bailout seat which allows the pilot to eject at any height and any speed. Though the price of the fighter is huge, $146 million for just the one metal bird. However, it's said that if the taxpayers refuse to pay for their own army, then they'll soon be paying for someone else's. Do you agree with this? Do you feel safe if you know that such planes are patrolling the skies? Let us know down below. Like this video and subscribe to the channel.